with all due respect, Snow White, AOC did vote against the Renaissance Act, whatnot. You know, she, but I mean, what a phony she is over here, right? She's not really speaking out. At one point when she was asked about Venezuela's treatment in the laws going towards Venezuela, I think it was Max Blumenthal who asked her in the halls of Congress, she goes, I'm going to defer to caucus leadership. So it's been like a phony pushback against, it hasn't been a really strong pushback for all these countries that are heavily sanctioned and speaking out against people like Bob Menendez because they're in a party.
But look, here's the tough spot that AOC's in that I don't think you get, Craig.
What's that?
Like, obviously you can't get everything you want when you do. That's just how politics are. Yeah. And she needs to save her political capital. You know, right now it's the sunscreen thing. You don't have effective sunscreen and good sunscreen like Europe does. Get out there, make calls, get in the streets. Yeah, we want the British. Get active, and she's really been absorbed with that, so she doesn't really have time. You know, you got to defer the caucus on other stuff.
This one's such a phony. That not one person is standing up in the fraud squad, the progressives, to end the war in Ukraine. Not one person is speaking out against it. They're all funding it. And you ask people like Jamal Bowman, and they say, "What? Because Putin's a madman." Here's some lip service from AOC.
Don't you look like the Disney Snow White remake with that dress?
Watch this.
I definitely think that we need to have comprehensive immigration reform so that we aren't constantly doing this patchwork policy extension.
So call to end the bases. Call to stop the foreign policy right there. If you really definitely think we need it, why aren't you speaking up for it? You have not spoke up for Latin America whatsoever.
I'll settle for don't pretend cry in front of a fence.
That's it. Yeah. And then when Biden does it, right, it's okay. Completely different.
That has not happened for decades. But additionally, I think we also need to examine the root of this problem.
Which is?
Because if we are constantly engaging in foreign policy that drives people to our southern border.
So then why isn't she speaking up and not funding against Ukraine? Why is she for it then? If she's sitting here and admit, first of all, I think she kind of has been watching our show. So she's coming up with the solution.
She likes me?
She's talking about the root of the problems here. You know, this is the first time I've ever heard her talk about it. You know, she hasn't talked about closing the bases, but that's great. You know, let's play it back a little bit.
Constantly engaging in foreign policy that drives people to our southern border. In this specific instance, U.S. sanctions that were originally authored by Marco Rubio began and precipitated, certainly took a large part in the driving of populations to our southern border. Shortly after those sanctions, those broad-based sanctions.
You're talking about Venezuela.
Yes. Shortly after those broad-based sanctions were enacted, we started seeing dramatic increases in these populations that were coming to our southern border. And so we have to address the root of these population movements and the migration crisis. And we also have to address the domestic U.S. policy issues when it comes to immigration reform.
But you know, the Maduro government has also been responsible for large parts of that. Are you saying that you...
See, that's the thing she does. Absolutely. Once again, when they pivot right back down to this is Maduro's fault, he's a dictator.
What if we need to beg him for gasoline again? What if we got to send one of our reps to go to Venezuela to beg them for oil while our awesome sanctions make us buy the same Russian oil just jacked up at a much higher rate? They don't really plan ahead for this, do they?
No. This is just
the
lip
poor
service,
guy that's got to go suck Maduro's...
yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. This is lip service here. This AOC is nothing more than lip service, because she'll pivot right back down to, yeah, Maduro, absolutely, which means she'll vote or not push back against any of these sanctions right now, or the foreign policy, or the bases, whatnot. It's just lip service. She'll kind of point it out the fact that she knows it's there. She'll acknowledge it, but when push comes to shove, she will not be an ally. She'll tuck tail and run. Just like she said when it came to Venezuelan foreign policy, I'll defer to caucus leadership, when you know caucus leadership is all about what? Sanctions and bases. Sorry. You're not fooling anybody, AOC.
Lip service would be a great name for a cosmetics line if she wanted to do that.
I think it was.
Lip service from AOC?
The Milli Vanilli.
You want the Biden administration to pull back pressure on him?
I think we need to re-examine the nature of these sanctions. There are...
What does that mean? You want him to pull back, yes or no? No, I think we need to re-examine the nature. No, Sanctions are going to hurt the people. They're never going to hurt the leaders, right? They're going to hurt the people like they're hurting the people right now, like they've hurt the people of Latin America for God knows how long. There is no reason why we had to have any sanctions against Nicaragua whatsoever. And even though she voted against it, she didn't call press conferences and railing against it. It's like they vote quietly and they move on. Stand up, scream, say something. You want to re-examine the way sanctions work? There is no re-examining. They shouldn't have it. People in Latin America, in Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba should have their national sovereignty, and they should be left alone.
Well, all the migration happening all at once. Do people not think sanctions help cause a lot of that? What are sanctions supposed to do? I don't understand the goal of sanctions.
The goal of sanctions is supposed to change the behavior of a certain country's behavior. Right?
But it's not a country. It's we don't like the leader.
Yes.
So everyone there has to be punished.
Yes.
And then I guess while you're starving, you have to get like a revolutionary army together and overthrow this guy we don't like.
Yes. And they don't like that guy because that guy is not friendly to their corporations. That's it. He won't let us come in there and take their resources. So therefore, we don't like them. So therefore, he's Putin. He's evil. They do the same thing for Ortega. I mean, and God, people sitting there talking about the Nicaraguan government. The whole Contra affair, funding the Contras.
Yeah, right.
Freeway Rick Ross, cocaine, guns, the Iran Contra scandal. Yeah. Hello.
The Contras helped bring a lot of crack into America.
And
thanks, CIA.
And we'll always fund.
Thanks, George W. Bush. No, George H.W.
Yes, Reagan. Ronald Reagan.
Well,
then George.
George H.W. was a CIA guy that was
Herbert.
Big,
he was. But he was the vice president too.
I can't prove it, but it is a serious allegation, and you can't ignore a serious allegation.
Let's wrap up with this lip service.
Sanctions that are very specific, for example, the Magnitsky Act sanctions that do actually focus on the decision makers and people who may be violating norms, practices, civil rights, but broad-based sanctions that punish the overall economy and harm everyday working people that are driving them into the economic and political destitution that force millions of people, both not just to the United States, but even to our regional partners. Senator.
And she's right. While she's cowering before this, bony war pig here, you see AOC's afraid of this, Jay. While she said, "What do you think they should pull back? Yeah. Do you think Juan Guaido is not the rightful ruler of Venezuela?"
She literally said we should defer to caucus leadership when she had the opportunity to really take it head on.
Defer to these nuts.
Right. And that's what she was doing. She was referring to these nuts because she was saying that sanctions are okay. And here she is. She's trying to twist it again. She's trying to, once again, it's the type of sanctions. No, we should have these sanctions that affect the whole population are no good. Let's go with these other sanctions.
Yeah.
And she should be saying, listen, maybe you might not like Nicolas Maduro, but he's the elected leader of that country. Maybe you don't like Daniel Ortega, but he's the elected leader of that country. And guess what? Those elections, ladies and gentlemen, they're better than our elections. Kurt, you want to put a bow on this real quick so we can wrap this part out?
I regret that during the Parliament Justin Trudeau story, where they all applauded a Nazi for 2 standing ovations, that how it could have been way better?
How's that?
If Justin Trudeau did it in full blackface, his full regalia, his classic. Also, I'd like to notify the Canadian people that I think Jagmeet Singh is Justin Trudeau in his Arabian Nights outfit, and you got Mike Myers.
Question: do you think Justin Trudeau is the son of Castro? There's that rumor out there.
Who cares?
I know.
What would that like?
I don't know, but it's a cool, fun rumor to talk about.
He's got a blunt face, sure.
Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Tampa, Boca Raton, Orlando, Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, and Levittown, New York. Wow, that's a lot of dates. See you there.